Welcome back to another episode of Rags to Riches. I have two special guests. They are sisters, Trina and Tanisha, and they have lost loved ones to violence, gun violence. Um, First, I want to say that I am so sorry for you guys' loss. First of all, and how long ago was it when this tragedy happened?
2016 was the last one.
Because we've had three.
Three. Oh wow.
Mhm.
So which out of the three that you've had, was it close friends, relatives? Which
The most recent was our stepsister, uh, my best friend, and then my boyfriend of 8 years.
Oh my goodness. And all of them was through gun violence?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus have mercy. So can you tell us about that night and what happened?
For her,
Which one?
it was daytime. Well, we'll talk about the most recent. You say
Yeah,
you
and then
told
you
me,
can.
and we'll go backwards.
The
Yeah.
most recent was my stepsister. It was March 18th, 2016.
Oh my God, you
Uh,
remember the date? I
yeah,
always know it's spring break, but I know it's the
it
date.
was a it was a Friday, and Thursday before she passed, I had was my last day at my old job. That Monday, I was starting a new job. So we had talked about going to lunch Friday. So Friday morning, I called her about like must have been about 9, and she said she was still laying down. And I said, okay, well I'm gonna go to the nail shop. And by the time I get my nails done, you should be up and ready to go. So the nail shop is about 10 minutes from my house. So I'm gonna say 20 minutes later, I had sat down in the nail shop and the lady had just barely started on my pinky. And my mom called and said Monique had been shot.
Mm.
And so at that moment, that's all the information we had. So I was kind of distraught. And the lady said, you want me to continue on my nails? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm thinking the whole time, now when I leave the nail shop, I got to go to the hospital because I never thought she was going to die. And then by the time she
Right.
finished my first hand, I got a call back say she had passed away. So it was around, had to be
Oh
around
Jesus.
11. Yeah, so it had to be around 11:30, 12 o'clock that Friday.
And I was on a
Mm.
cruise, and
Mm-hmm.
came back from the cruise, and there's no at that time they didn't have internet and Facebook when you was on the cruise back then, and
Well, we could have told you we decided not to tell you
right,
till you
I
got back.
called, but I didn't have Facebook then. But I called. I had talked to them. They didn't say anything. But as soon as I got off the cruise, the first thing y'all was trying to do was get to my Facebook to see what was going on in the world. And I saw the picture of Monique, our stepsister, and saying she passed away. I called my mama real quick and said, "No, said Mama, your Facebook been somebody hacked your Facebook," and I was serious as cancer. Somebody hacked your Facebook and showed like Monique is dead, like somebody killed Monique. And she said no, she got killed. And
Oh
I
Jesus.
I was like, what? Like what? I mean, like we just got off the ship. And then I said, what do you mean? I said, who killed her? Not thinking. And she said Reggie, and Reggie is her husband, was her ex-husband. She had divorced him a month prior, a month or two prior.
Oh God. Wow. And that's sad. So whenever you guys got that call and you find out who has done that, what was your reaction? Especially that you knew him. Like this wasn't a random person. This was actually someone she has been married to.
For me, it was a shock, but it wasn't a shock because I knew a whole lot of stuff that had been going on. So it had already been talked about if something ever happened to me. So I was shocked because I never believed that he would really do it, first of all. But so it was just shocking. I didn't think he would really do it, and I don't really think she did either. Even though she had said it, I don't think she truly believed he would do it.
Right. So she felt it. And she kind of
Oh
knew, so she
yeah,
kind of.
it was a lot of things that went on prior to that.
And
So yeah.
Wow.
one of the most profound things that I that stands to me is when my sister went to, because I didn't go to the trial, but my sister went to the trial. Was the police officer said when they got the call and gave the address, all she said in her mind was, "He finally did it."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus! What was the reason?
Just because, well, I'm gonna go back some years before she died. She was heavily overweight, and she had the surgery, the not lipo, whatever the surgery where they lose the whole everything. So she had lost over 100 pounds. And after before she lost the weight, she had low self-esteem, and she was all, the losing the weight gave her kind of like a new life. She started like hanging out, having fun. She bought a motorcycle. She, cut her hair, and she just started living life. And I think that was the problem.
Triggered
because
it,
she started, just living life. She just always wanted to have fun, like, and that's what I think triggered it.
Wow. So he just didn't want her to
live.
Right. He didn't want her to have no fun. He didn't want that change. It hurt him.
It was
right.
Jealous, and then he had got hurt, so he wasn't working and making the money he was making, but she was still going on with her life, making, she was actually had got another job and got promoted and started making more money. And so all of that was just, a little jealousy.
I always think about it was one of those if I can't have you, nobody else can,
right,
type of thing. And then also, I think that's what stood out to me. And then we were doing swing out dancing, and she had started taking that class. And I remember at that time, she hadn't just got free yet, but it was one of the beginnings. I remember him saying, you don't need to be going to no swing out class. I remember her saying that.
Wow. So he just didn't want her to live at all. He liked it when she had the low self-esteem. And but whenever it brought it up, he didn't care for that.
No.
Wow. Right. Wow. That's horrible. So with the other tragedy that happened, how did that occur?
2 years prior to that was one of my best friends, and we have been best friends since 2000, and she got murdered in 2014.
Oh, wow.
And it was October, so I think it was 2014. And she just kind of went down a different path than me, but I was still, we were still friends. She got on drugs and just started doing some crazy things, and was just kind of like at the wrong place, wrong time. Some kind of money transaction or something, and the guy shot her.
Oh my God. So was it someone that you guys knew as well, or was it someone she was dealing with?
No, I didn't know the guy that murdered her. No.
Wow. And she was such a nice person, like full of life, and she just couldn't get back. She just couldn't get back on track. She went to jail for a while and came out. And I always think about it like this too. And I thought her name is Erica. Was that, we think about people going to jail, and when you go to jail, you can't live in certain places because you can't have a felony when you live here. You can't get certain jobs. So she basically had to go back into the same, environment,
right,
to where she needed to get out of.
Right.
So, not saying she couldn't get help or she couldn't fix it, but it's hard.
It is. And then if you don't have the money to kind of like sponge your record, and everybody doesn't because it's costly, and I think that's very unfair. Like, even if someone has been in trouble or something, everybody deserves a second chance.
Yeah.
But the law is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So what was going through your mind whenever you got that phone call or that knock at that door? What was going through your mind?
I got the phone call from her sister, and I remember I don't remember what day of the week it was. I was at work, so it was during the week. And she called me and told me that, she had passed away. And I can't really remember what went through my mind at the moment, but because again, it was kind of like one of those situations where she was going through so much. I was shocked, but not super shocked because of all of the stuff that she was going through and the people she was hanging with and the places she was going. So we all had tried to help her. We all tried to, get her. And I had even offered for her to come live with me. But of course, she didn't want to live with me because she can't do this. She can't have this person over. She can't do that. So it was almost like living with a parent. So she wouldn't come live with me. And it was just, it was just almost, you kind of knew something eventually was going to happen because it was just the path that she was on.
Right. How about you, Trina?
For me, Erica was I knew her through my sister. And I just, again, remember her just being so fun and full of life. And when you think about it, you can't help but laugh because she just was a funny person. And I believe half the time when they knew she was on drugs, I didn't know she was on drugs. To be honest with you, I just thought she was this fun, full of life person. But it's just sad for me when I think about her because my sister every year posts the picture and does a little tribute every year for her. I think about her then and just say, man, what a life she could have had. She did have children. One child, she had more than
two boys.
And what that was a big loss for them. So, but of course, I think when my sister talks about the next one, it just kind of shows you for my sister, there's been 3 tragic things and she was very close to my stepsister. I was close, but they're Dallas Cowboy fans, so they bonded with that. So they were much, I didn't get to go because they said I wasn't no football player. So, but they bonded.
So they left you behind.
Yeah, I got kicked out. But my thing was my sister, when I told her about your show, she was the one that made me remember, oh my gosh, my sister done had 3 pretty much back to back, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't realize Eric was just 2 years in between.
She was 2 years prior to Monique. That, and then Jared was in 2007.
So when that happened to your stepsister, what was going through your mind then? Like when you got that knock or that call?
That to me, I don't know.
It still today feels like a dream.
It just kind of feels like a dream. And then I left it, I went ahead and let her finish my nails because at that point she was already deceased and it wasn't much that I could do. So she asked me, did I want her to finish? And I said, yeah, let's go ahead and finish. And then after I left the nail shop, I went straight to her house. And I remember pulling up and it was just kind of weird. I pulled up and they had the yellow tape out there. She was still laying out there.
Oh my God.
We stood out there for like 5 hours before they came and got her body. And then I was, when I got in shock was when they finally took the yellow tape down and they let us in the house. And I didn't know that when somebody murdered, they don't clean up the murder scene. They just take the body.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So when we got to, she passed away in between the garage and the front, in the garage and the front yard right there. So when they finally, I was with my stepfather and my mom, and when they finally let us go in, I think that's what took us all back, was because when we got to the driveway, we saw all the blood and bullet holes, and it was just, that was when I think everybody just kind of broke down, because that was a shocker, because I didn't think that they just leave and they don't clean up the crime scene.
Right.
They still had like stings out there where they was marking all the bullet holes and blood everywhere. And we literally had to get the water hose and wash the blood off ourselves, So that was something that I had never been through. Ever saw.
And on my again, I was not there because I was coming back to Houston, but it still was just like, I just couldn't believe it. But the things that played through, even him, he unloaded his gun, and her daughter was there.
Oh my gosh.
He murdered her right in the front of her at the time 16-year-old daughter. And oh my
God.
Yeah, that was his biological daughter. That was his real daughter. And so when we got there, while we was waiting outside, Jardé, which is her daughter, she had went over to a neighbor's, and so we went around to the neighbor's house to see her, and she was just distraught, you know, because she was very close to her mom, very, very. She was actually very close to both parents, but when she told us the story, and she said that she screamed, "Daddy, no," and he did it anyway. It was just a sad situation.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
it is, and he had no remorse just to do that in front of their child.
No, he had no
Jesus
remorse.
mercy.
When we went to trial, they asked him,
That's sad.
would he turn around and apologize to the family at trial, and he said he wasn't gonna do it.
That was sad.
Oh my gosh, that was heartless.
Yeah, he said no.
Wow.
He wouldn't,
So
he
with the
wouldn't- he
third
wouldn't do it.
one, what went on with that one?
So
That's sad.
Jared,
That's
so Jared was April 22nd, 2007, and this particular night we had me, my sister, and my aunt had went out, and where I lived was kind of, you had to go down a lot of back streets, you know, to get home. So whenever I would go out, he would come through and wait, you know, for us to go home. So when he said, "I'll be out there when y'all at 2:00." So when I got outside at 2 and he wasn't there, I started calling his phone, and he wasn't answering, which was very odd. So I called his phone maybe 4 or 5 times, and then finally a lady picked up the phone and said he had been shot and he was laying in the street.
Oh my goodness.
And so I think my sister probably had went to the car, I don't remember. So we all drove to where he was at. And the thing, when we got there, the street he was on, you can go to that street on 2 sides. So I was driving by myself because I had already left when she finally answered and said he was in the street. So I called my sister, and her and my aunt was in another car. So my sister, they came in on one side of the street. Why is this phone? My sister came in on one side of the street, and I came out on a different side of the street. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
I just can't find y'all now. Okay. And when I came in on one side, she came in on this side, and I came in on the opposite side. So where they came in at, they could see inside the ambulance. Where I came in, I was in the front of the ambulance, and they wouldn't let you go around. So I don't know that he's deceased at that time. And I don't think my sister, I don't know what they thought at that moment. But finally, when the ambulance pulled off and I followed behind the ambulance, I didn't know at the moment that I didn't realize at the moment that there was no siren and they weren't driving fast. They was just driving regular, stopping at lights and all this. You know, I didn't think that until now. Later on, I thought he was already deceased because there was no siren. They were stopping at lights. Then instead of normally when somebody's shot, they take them to Ben Taub. They didn't take him to Ben Taub. They took him to the hospital that was right down the street, which is not a trauma hospital. So I never thought about all that until later, that they just took him somewhere so they could pronounce him, you know, deceased. Right. But he was actually shot by just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was going down the street and just passing. It was a club that he wasn't at that club that night. He was just passing through, and somebody had the street blocked, and he got out and said, "Hey, can I get through? Because it's just a one-way, like a one street." And he got in between the altercation and he didn't know what was going on, and they just turned around and shot him 5 times.
Oh my God. Well, you have really been through it.
And again, he was another one that, for me.
So how has this affected your family?
I think it affected us a lot because my daughter was real close to him as well. So she took it very hard. I think a lot of us took it hard. He had 2 sons, and then we also was raising my godson. So it affected a lot of people.
Yeah.
Wow. And Trina, how about you? How did it affect you with all three?
That's what I was gonna say. That with all three, at the end of the day, it's one of those things to where you're like, not that you want anyone to pass, but you know how some people you be like, oh, they in that life, so that whatever. But to me, all three, especially Jared. Jared was a good father. He was not out there doing crazy stuff to get in trouble, because he had two sons as well. Um, and they were just good people that was not deserving of what they got. Yes, Erica was,
Right.
in a bad scene, but definitely Jared and definitely Monique were two people who didn't deserve what they got. And no, Erica didn't either, but you know what I mean. You could kind of, like Tony said,
Yeah, I
expect,
understand what you're saying.
but
Hmm.
those two, I mean, and then again, I don't think we still were at the hospital. I still don't think that we really realized what was really going on. It was just almost something you just feel like a dream,
Yeah.
Right. Did they ever catch any of the people who committed the crimes?
All three of them, the guys are in jail still. All three.
Good. Where they need to be.
what they need to
Hmm.
be. And
Yeah.
Monique's
Right.
husband, the judge actually gave him again, I wasn't there. My sister told me that the judge gave him like a tongue lashing to tell him that, you know, he had no remorse and how, you know,
They
how
raised his charges up at court. They gave him they added aggravated to it, so he would have to do at least 20 years, but 25 years before he could come up for parole.
What? So did any of them get life?
None of them got life. The one that
Oh
killed my
wow.
boyfriend in 2008, he got 40 years. I think the one that did Erica, I think he got 25 or 30 years. And then the last one that killed my sister, he got 40 years. But
Wow.
for him, life is 40 years because he was already almost 50 when he got his time. So to
Okay.
him, that's life. 40 years will be life. But the guy that killed my boyfriend in 2007, he was pretty young. He was pretty young.
Wow. Janice said she is listening and missed them both. She missed them both.
Mm.
So and I've never had any gun violence in my family, knock on wood, but I have actually seen a coworker get shot to death, which was
Oh,
by a jealous boyfriend as well. So
wow.
and she was in her 20s, so she was very young when that happened to her. She
Oh,
had a
wow.
5-year-old daughter, and he just, he couldn't handle the fact that she didn't want to be with him because he was cheating on her. And same mentality, like, if I can't have you, no one can. And he stood
Hmm.
on that, and he killed her in front of it was me, my cousin, and a couple more people. I was working at a prison then, and walked out
Oh, wow.
and just so happened to see
wow.
him and her, and he would never let her enter inside the job, and everybody was trying to get her to come in, and he opened fire, just killed. But he didn't want to harm nobody else. He just wanted to kill. He didn't care who was out there watching. He wanted to do just that, and that was to kill her. When
Oh,
the
yeah.
cops came, he handed cops his gun, put his own hands behind his back, and
Wow.
they took him on. So
Because
I'm like, Lord
he
have
was
mercy.
satisfied.
She was a sweet person too that didn't deserve it. Oh
That's
yeah,
Yeah,
kind
oh yeah,
that's
oh
he
kind of
was
yeah.
what happened.
satisfied.
And it's sad.
That's kind of what happened with Reggie, Monique's husband.
Mhm.
After he finished doing what he had to do, he didn't bother nobody else, and he told them, "Well, when the police come, tell them they can come get me at my mama house."
Mhm.
And that is true fast because even the
Oh
policeman
wow,
on TV said that.
And he waited there. He waited there for them. He didn't try to
wow.
run or nothing. Yeah, he didn't try to run or
So he
nothing.
did what he
When
wanted
they
to
went to
do.
his mom's house, he was there.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So he did what he wanted to do, and he already knew that he was gonna serve the time. A lot of people might try to run or might try to harm somebody else, but yeah, it looked like
Mhm.
they they did what they wanted, and that was that. That's but people
Mm-hmm.
never think about other people, like their kids or their families or
Right.
their own families, or how they would feel, with situations like that. They never think, they just act.
But they don't realize that they hurt their own family as well,
Right.
because
Right,
their family is losing somebody as well. Because even though
right,
most of the time, sometimes they get out, but you still put your family through that, because now they got to go through the trial, and they got to go through the court, and they got to put money on the phone and money on your books,
right,
and they can't, you put both families through a lot.
right, right. And
And
they don't
we
think like
also
that.
lost a little cousin to gun violence about 4 years ago. He
Oh
Mm.
was
yeah.
17 years old, and
17. Oh my God.
he was 17, and just kind of at the wrong place again, at the wrong place, wrong time, doing things that he probably shouldn't have been doing. Um, and he was murdered.
And he was the only
At
child, only boy, only
On,
child.
17.
on the child, yeah,
So I can't even
17.
imagine what the parents is going through.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. I think that's the
So
part,
if for the ones who think violence,
go ahead.
I think it's a delay.
Uh-huh, it is. Okay.
y'all can hear me okay?
Yeah. Mhm.
Is it freezing?
I think it's freezing a little bit. Okay.
Okay, so the ones who think violence is the answers, what could you tell them?
Kind of like what I just said, that they're putting their family through just as much, maybe not as just as much, but almost as much as hurt as the person that you hurt. Because now your family, if you have kids, they're left, because now they got to step in with your kids, where because you can't be there, and they got to, a lot of these parents are older, that don't really want to have to take care of these little small children. So it's both sides. You leave your family to take your responsibility. You hurting your parents. If you have an older parent, now they got to try to go see you and in prison, and that's a lot of stress and a lot of on the family. Then if the families, just in Monique's situation, the families knew each other because they had been married for 20 years. So now you got a strain on a family, because you got one side over here and one side over there, and you got everybody, that it's just I just don't think that's, anybody that murders somebody or hurts somebody, they're just not thinking about everybody that suffers.
Right.
But a lot of them don't have remorse.
Right.
So
I agree.
and a lot of them, and then what the police officer told me when Jared was murdered, what that guy was, because it was so easy for him to shoot him, that he had shot somebody before. Because once you shoot somebody, it's easy to do it again. So he knew, the police
Right.
officer said because he had no remorse, so he felt like he had shot before.
Wow.
And I guess for me, I think about it as a whole. When you say, what would I say to somebody that was considering gun violence? First of all, of course, it's not the answer. And like
Right.
piggybacking off of what Tanisha said, is that everybody's involved, everybody's hurt, and this is something that's gonna last us for the rest of our lives. For the rest of our lives, we have to think about it. You can go a couple of days, but you always think about it. But that's what also taking it to a bigger level of being able to just get guns so easily.
That's
And
true. And I mean, they've even made it a law that it's okay. It's stand your ground law now.
Yeah.
It's I actually went to my friend's mom's birthday party on Saturday, and I was just sitting there talking to a lady. Didn't know this lady from anybody, and we just started a conversation. and her husband was murdered in February. She was working at a restaurant, and he would always come up there when the restaurant closed to make sure that she got to her car or whatever safely. And this particular night, somebody was trying to get them to banging on the door and trying to get them to open the door, and had a gun. And when he came up from behind them, they turned around and shot him. And again, the little guy was 17 years old. And she talked to me and asked me, how did you get over that? And I told her that I've moved on with my life. It was in 2007, but I think about it every day. You're never going to get over it. You're just going to go on with your life, but you will never, that's just something you never get over. But you learn how to go on with your life. And for her, it's so new because it just happened in February. So I can just imagine.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why a 17-year-old, what's a 17-year-old? How did he even get a gun? And that's why the laws and the laws have got to be changed and for people to, and I know most people are focusing on the AK, whatever that is, but also being able to get just little guns.
Because they killed too. They killed because it wasn't an AK that killed Jared. It was a regular shot, just a regular gun.
Yeah,
So
any of them will definitely do the job. That's for sure. Yeah. And that was actually going to be my next question. Like, how do you guys cope with it?
You just you again. You don't get over it. You just learn how to you just learn how to move on. I think about my sister. I think about Jared. I think about Erica. I think about them all the time because.
Right.
Each one of them, we had different relationships. So it's just, you just learn to go on, but you never forget.
Yeah. And PTSD comes about, thinking about, anytime you see somebody, you somewhere, you just always feel like, because I was mugged. I wasn't mugged with a gun, but it just might as well have been, you know what I mean? And so it's a PTSD thing where you're almost jumping, or if you're in a store, you see people come in looking a certain way. And I actually was always one of those people trying to say, oh, I don't want to be, what is it? I used to say,
you used to tell me to stop stereotyping our own
stereotyping. So I won't even lock my doors. I wouldn't even lock my doors. If I pass, I don't want them to think I'm doing that. And then the night I got mugged, same thing. I was like, oh, hey, you scared me. Not realizing this person was out to do something to me. You know what I mean? So it increases your trust, your non-trust. It increases your fear. It makes life different. Mm-hmm. It makes life different. Life is never going to be the same. I don't want to live in this total fear, but you do. You think about, when you have children, you're thinking about your children being out and moving. Sure. My dad used to always say, oh, every time y'all walk out the door, every night I'd be thinking, I hope y'all come back safe. He always would say it. Well, he still say that today, and we old. But I feel that now with my kids. That's all I think about sometimes when things happen on TV or just knowing what happened to us. It's like, child, So yeah, it's just. I think people need to get therapy for it. I do.
I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So what can you tell someone who's been through the same tragedy as you?
I always tell them that, you will eventually move, be able to go on with life. You're never going to forget it. You're going to think about the person every day, but you'll go on with life and, find happiness, again, but it does take time.
And I guess I would say the same that she says, but and I don't know about you, Tony, but I tend to think about the kids of all them all the time.
I think about that. Kids.
I definitely think about the kids all the time. Like if we feeling it, you know what I mean? Can you imagine, especially the baby that saw it,
What the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh Lord.
But
I cannot imagine. But I want to thank you ladies so much for being a guest. I enjoyed it so much.
And I just want to
Mhm.
say, coping. You asked me about coping. Let me just say one more thing. I do believe in people, and as I mentioned, getting counseling, but talking to somebody, and then people being okay with
Right.
listening. Somebody may need to talk about
Right.
it more than once, more than twice, more than 10 times.
Right.
Be there for them, you know.
Right.
Because people, when it first happens, people say, "Oh, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there." But after the funeral goes, you don't hear from those people no more.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's sad because, you know, everybody needs a friend. Right. Right. Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot even imagine what you ladies have been through. That's a lot. And that's, you know, from all ages, from young to older, that you guys have lost within back to back. So I can't even imagine what you ladies are going through, or the families itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I definitely want to thank you ladies so much for being a guest. This was lovely, and I hope everyone who is listening, even the ones who's thinking about bad things, don't. Because when you're hurting someone else, you're not only hurting them and their family, you're hurting your own. So think, guys. Think. So, ladies, again, thank y'all so much. This was a pleasure itself.
Thank you for having
so much
you
for
guys
having
coming
us.
on and being a guest. I really enjoyed it. Y'all are so welcome. So until next time, guys, peace.
Podcast that is available on any podcasting platform, including YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Mood. It teaches you about motivation and responsibility with financial growth. Check it out today. Smooches. Peace.